Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to our friends around the world. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. Many of you on this call have been in close touch with us in the recent days, asking how the students are doing and how you can help. We are deeply grateful for that support. I'm Alan Zeichelman, Chairman of Bar-Ilan University's Global Board of Trustees, and it is my privilege to welcome you to today's program. When the lions roar, we rise. A special briefing on Bar-Ilan's response to this moment of national crisis. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge something many of us are feeling. For Israelis and for friends of Israel around the world, the recent days have brought a level of uncertainty and emotional strain that is difficult to fully capture in words. For students, this has meant trying to pursue their education while their country is at war, while friends and family are serving in the reserves, and while the future often feels unpredictable. Universities are not only centers of learning, they are communities, and during times like these, they become places of support, stability, and healing. At Bar-Ilan University, responding to the emotional and psychological needs of our students is one of the university's top priorities. Nearly 3,000 Bar-Ilan students are currently serving in the IDF reserves. Thousands more continue their studies under the strain of war, uncertainty, and separation from friends and family. What makes Bar-Ilan distinctive is that our response did not begin on October 7th. For many years, the university invested in building the academic expertise, clinical programs, and community partnerships needed to address trauma, resilience, and mental health in Israeli society. When the crisis came, Bar-Ilan already had the people, the infrastructure, and the mission to respond. Today's briefing is an opportunity to hear directly from the experts who are leading that work, supporting students on campus, strengthening communities across Israel, and advancing research that will help the country understand and address the long-term effects of trauma. We are grateful to be joined today by three outstanding leaders who are at the forefront of this effort. Professor Rivka Tuval-Mashiach, Vice President for International Affairs in the Third Mission, Professor Noa Vilchinsky, Dean of the Division for Designated Programs and Head of the Resiliency Center Steering Committee, Professor Danny Horesh, Head of the Trauma and Stress Research Lab in the Department of Psychology and co-director of Bar-Ilan's new Interdisciplinary Trauma Research Center. That's a mouthful. Unfortunately, we were also supposed to be joined by Dr. Yael Shoval-Zuckerman, co-director of BIU's new Interdisciplinary Trauma Research Center and head of the Bachelor of Social Work program at the Weisfeld School of Social Work. She was called into reserve duty late last night, I guess, and won't be able to join us today. But we're going to continue without her and do a great job, I'm sure. You may hear the phrase Bar-Ilan's third mission during today's conversation. This refers to the university's commitment to translating academic knowledge and university resources into real society impact. At Bar-Ilan, excellence in research and teaching is inseparable from responsibility to society. The third mission focuses on applying academic expertise to address national challenges, strengthen communities, and improve lives. Before we begin, I want to note that we're going to have a dedicated Q&A section toward the end of the webinar. Please feel free to submit your questions either in the Zoom chat or in the Q&A box. I think it's the chat as we go along. And with that, let's begin our conversation. Perhaps we can begin by talking about what students themselves are experiencing during these difficult days. Professor Vilchinsky, let me start with you. When people think about universities during wartime, they often focus on logistics, postponed exams, remote learning, or students being called up for reserve duty. But Bar-Ilan has also made emotional resilience a central part of its response. What are the most pressing psychological challenges students are facing right now? And how has Bar-Ilan adapted its support systems to help them continue learning and functioning during this time of war?
Thank you, Alan. And hello, everyone. I feel really privileged to be able to be here today and talk to you. Starting academic life is stressful under any circumstances. You don't need a war for that. You are tested, you have exams, you have all kinds of chores. It's difficult. And on a daily basis, students cope with difficulties regarding their academic lives. However, just imagine what it is for a student to be also in a war situation, in a very, very stressful situation, missiles coming every day, and still be able to hold on to their academic duties and chores. So basically what we see now is stress and the difficulty of dealing with uncertainty. We don't know when the semester will commence. We don't know if we will be able to study and teach via face-to-face meetings as usual or via Zoom. We don't know if we have the exams on time. Everything shifts from day to day because we need to, adapt to the daily changes that are posed on us due to the reality. So it's a lot of uncertainty, trying to have all your balls in the air, so to speak, to study, to cope, to work. Some of them are reservists, so they are taken to the army. They have to, fight or whatever they need to do there, and still be able to continue their lives. So mainly what we see across the board is stress and uncertainty and lots of questions, and it might turn into anxiety and even depression because the situation is taking so much and is very long, and we need to assist them kind of being able to remind themselves that they can cope with the situation, and we are here to help them. We are not just an organization that asks them to fulfill their jobs or their chores, but we are also here to adjust, to adapt, and to assist, because the goal is joined. We want them to complete their degrees just as much as they do. So we do all kinds of things to assist them. The major one is the academic shield that we came up with, meaning that we give all kinds of different chores instead of the ones that they cannot do. We postponed courses. We moved to teach online during these times. So all kinds of mitigations that can be of help to the students to be able to cope and continue without being left behind.
Thank you. And are there specific groups of students that might have greater challenges? Might have, I don't know, somebody who's already served in the past or had or an injury or other things like that. Can you maybe address that in some way?
I will briefly state, and I will also ask Rivka to respond to that. Definitely, we have students who've been to the army and came back and they are post-traumatized. We have family members who were alone without their loved ones, who were called to the army, and they have to study, take care of the children, while being very stressed. We have our not only the students, but also our staff members and faculty members. Some of them were also called on duty. They had to teach while serving, and they have had their children called up on duty. So all the circles were kind of harmed. We have Arab students. For them also the situation is very difficult. So we have to attend to every population differently in a kind of a haute couture way, not pret-a-porter. Yes, not one size fits all, but many, many kinds of intervention that can assist the differences, the different population. Rivka, you wanted to add on that?
Yes, I think Noa, you touched on everything that is important. I think one of the strengths that we have is that we know these vulnerable populations in advance because we do have a very clear vision of what is needed to be done, not only in times of emergency, but also on daily routines. So those more vulnerable populations, like people who already lost other people, people who are already with PTSD, people from the southern parts of Israel who were relocated from their homes, Nova survivors, all those populations, we already know that they need extra care. So we don't wait for them to come to us. We proactively engage with them and we take extra care. Having said that, we know that the majority of students, they cope quite well with their resources and with the support that they have. So we manage and we really triage every student by their own needs, as Noah mentioned.
How do you actually get in touch with a student? Is a student proactively picking up a hotline and calling you, or are you or are you proactive, or is it just like what is the mechanism by which you deliver these types of interventions?
Great question. So first of all, we have the hotlines, as you mentioned, which are open for everybody inside campus and also for the community outside of the campus. We also send lots of, daily emails for the students to know about everything that we are doing. We have a website. The Resiliency Center here at Bar-Ilan have a website that kind of explain and let everybody knows about everything that we do. But what we also have, and this is really unique, we spread the net, the resiliency network in a way. Every department has a psychologist kind of deployed there. And these psychologists are our students who are interns in our students' psychological service unit. So every department is provided with one of these interns, and these interns are very known in the department, and everybody in each department know that there is a person dedicated for the department's resiliency, and they can reach out, write them an email, call them, and this person will help them to receive the best intervention they need, whether they are students or faculty or staff.
Well, you've probably done a
Right.
great job in
Uh,
reducing the stigma that exists for mental health because many people,
Ellen,
oh,
can I
wait.
add
Oh,
something?
yes, I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I'm sorry, Rivka. Yes,
I wanted to add to that I think we very creatively came up with the idea that most of the students will not reach out to get help because there
exactly.
is still stigma and because
Mhm.
they think that they are okay even though they show symptoms. So this is why we at the Resilience Center, we trained the administrative staff, those who are in touch with the students, like the secretaries, the people who are answering the phone calls about the exams, about postponing the tests, about every administrative issue, to identify the distress and to start talking with them to say, I see that you have an academic issue, but maybe you want to see someone, maybe you want to talk to someone. Okay, and that really opens the way because the students would come for the academic stuff, and then if you engage them, they will say, yes, I would love to see someone, because when we open the hotlines, most of them will not call us because it takes, it
Bidiyuk.
takes a toll to call us. So
Yeah.
we do it for them.
That was the point I was going to bring up, but you brought it up and described it even better than I could have even asked the question. In general, the people who internalize things and think that it's okay, they're the ones who are at the greatest risk because they blow up later eventually if
Right.
things get bad enough. But I want to thank you, Noah. That really highlights that this is not only an academic challenge, it's also a human challenge. Professor Tuval-Mashiach, Rivka, in my opening remarks, I spoke about BIU's third mission, the responsibility to translate academic expertise into real societal impact. In this moment of national crisis, how is that mission coming to life? How is Bar-Ilan mobilizing its research, clinical programs, and community partnerships, not only for students on campus, but also for Israeli communities coping with trauma and uncertainty?
Okay, I'll start by saying that, I think universities are usually perceived as a tower, okay? Usually the term people use when they describe universities is the
Ivory
ivory
tower.
tower, right? Which means that usually professors and researchers are somewhat detached in order to study and do their science. They are detached from society. They are detached from the community. I think we at Bar-Ilan really prefer another metaphor for the tower that we strive to be, and this is a lighthouse. We do not wish to be an ivory tower. We wish to be a lighthouse for the community, and I think that's the third mission. That's what it stands for. I think in Bar-Ilan, what we really truly believe is that it's our responsibility to make the best science that we can, to train and educate the best next generation, but to make this knowledge applicable to society. And we see it as our responsibility to better society. We wanna help finding the solutions to the problems that we cope now. And I think by doing this, we combine all aspects that you can think of, the teaching, the research, the training of the next generation of social workers, psychologists, criminologists, everybody who has to do with resilience and trauma center, and also doing the clinical work here at Bar-Ilan. We don't only train, but we also supply clinical work, which is then divided not only to the clinical, which means people come when they suffer, but also to prevention. And I think this is what the Resilience Center stands for. And this is why Noa and I established the Resilience Center back in October 8th, when we said, we do have amazing services for those who need clinical work, but it's much more important to try to prevent distress from happening and equip people from the right with the right tools to prepare for whatever comes. As we are now, we are in the middle of the war. We sit here and we don't know if there will be a siren every moment, but we are okay because we are prepared and we know where the closest shelter is. And this is what the framework for the third mission in terms of our work on trauma and resilience is. This is why Danny is now launching the Trauma Research Center, because we want to support everything that we intervene with and we teach. We do not just want to do it. We want to know that it's efficient. This is why Noa and I established and run the Resilience Center. And this is all come together in a way that really covers everything that needs to be covered in terms of how we deal with trauma. This is one aspect. The other aspect is that the way I see, and we see in Bar-Ilan, the third mission, is that our responsibility is not only to take great care of our students or faculty or staff. We have a much larger responsibility to take care. I'll say,
Klal Israel.
yeah, for all Am Israel, for the Israeli society, for Israeli communities. And if we have time, I think both Noa and Danny and I can share from our own personal stories the amazing work that we've all been doing with hostages, with relocated communities, with the reservists, with the spouses of reservists who are not even part from the Bar-Ilan community, but they are part of the Israeli society. And the third tier is the Jewish communities all over the world. We assist with developing resilience in coping with anti-Semitic attacks and anti-Israel attacks. And we give webinars on preparedness based on our knowledge, because, times have been tough on Israeli and Jewish communities all over the world now. So I see it as, multi-layered mission that we really develop here in Bar-Ilan as the third mission.
So Rivka, I think you've kind of answered what I was going to ask you next, because I was going to ask you about examples where the impact is already being felt on the ground, and you've sort of given me the high level applications or areas where your impact is being used. But I don't know if, without naming names, are there some easy to convey examples, like of a situation where you helped a student in a certain specific way, or a faculty member or a staff person, that would be able to, you could give us and would make us really feel connected to what you're doing?
Well, we have so many examples. I think each one of us, I don't know how much time you have here, but
Take 2 minutes, take two or 3 minutes and do what you.
well, I can just share from one of our recent workshops that we did with soldiers, reservist students who came back from the last mission that they had. And one of them is with severe PTSD. And he was an excellent student. And he went there and he saw what he saw. And now when he came back, he's not able to study anymore. So we wanted to drop out. And our manager of this project in the Resilience Center, she approached him and she said, you do not come to the university because you cannot study. Join us in this workshop. This was an excavation workshop. She said, come be with people. And he agreed. But he said, I'm going to come for an hour and I'll leave because I can't be with people. I can't be outside. I'm too afraid. And by the end of the day, I think, I have tears in my eyes. Noah saw it as well. He wrote us to say, you have no idea how much I wait for the second day. This is the first day that I left my living room. I met great people. I'm going to be here until the end of the week. This was a week-long workshop. And this guy made great friends, and he agreed to go to therapy by the end of the workshop, and he's coming back to his studies.
That's absolutely
It's only
beautiful.
one story.
Yeah, I know. I think that I've been a bit of a chauvinist. I've let the ladies go first, and I know that Daniel is chomping at the bit. But thank you, Rivka. That broader perspective is so important because it shows what is happening at Bar-Ilan does not stop at the campus gates. Now, Professor Horesh, Bar-Ilan recently launched the new Interdisciplinary Trauma Research Center to study the psychological and societal effects of October 7th on the ongoing war. What makes this center distinctive, and what makes BIU uniquely positioned to understand and to respond to the long-term effects of trauma? Danny?
Thank you, Alan. Again, it's a privilege to be here. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Yes, so I think, I've been in Bar-Ilan for 13 years now, and I think Noa and Rivka even more than that. And I think we all knew over the years that Bar-Ilan is a major hub of trauma science and trauma research. So I think that out of all the academic institutions in Israel, we are the largest group of trauma and PTSD researchers from across the campus. We always knew that. We have been talking about that over the years, but you know how it goes. Each one has their own labs and research groups, and sometimes we collaborate with each other, but these are not huge collaborations. And over the years, we always had this idea that we should sometime, maybe in the future, have this large research center. The unfortunate opportunity of October 7th, I think made all of us think about this idea. And then, I think Rivka was the one who pushed it forward, and with the blessing of Professor Aryeh Saban, our president, after we had these very interesting discussions, we came to the conclusion that this kind of center should be formed in Bar-Ilan, and it's actually being formed in these days. Um, it's really, it's really exciting to see how many good people, researchers are actually doing trauma work across the entire campus of Bar-Ilan, from the medical school to psychology, social work, biology, brain sciences, law, communication, the humanities, art therapy, and more and more and more. And what we're doing at this center is actually combining the forces, but really in a real synergetic way, to do something that we believe only this kind of collaboration can actually do, which is to identify the major populations that were afflicted by October 7th and the war. And I think we all know who they are. So we have one population is the hostages and their families. Another one is, of course, the soldiers who have post-traumatic distress, the evacuees of the Gaza envelope and the north. Of course, those who were injured, there's, Noah talked about rehabilitation. This is a major, major public health issue right now in Israel that has also psychological implications. And first responders and professionals in general who have been exposed to the war. So if you take these populations, which are really huge, unfortunately, these days, and you want to understand their psychological state, their challenges, the way they are coping, you need something very big. So we're going to do large-scale studies, combining both psychology, biology, and other disciplines. Every study is going to tackle one population, but do it really as a cohort study, right? So not just get a glimpse at a certain point in time, but actually to do a study that follows them over time, and assesses their psychological, physiological, cognitive, emotional, behavioral coping. The aim, of course, you ask, why is Bar-Ilan equipped? Well, I think we have the know-how, we have the personnel, we have a lot of very good researchers and their grad students who can actually do this. We need a lot of people to do this. And the main aims of these kind of studies is first and foremost to identify who are the most vulnerable individuals who need our help, which goes back to the same questions you asked Rivka and Noah before, right? So we, of course, want to know over time who are the subpopulations who need us the most and why. So who are these people? Um, what are the risk factors? And of course, the resilience factors, by the way, on the other hand, that we can identify using very high quality research. We want to do science that is translational science. So we don't just want to do studies for the papers and for the library. We actually want to identify factors that are malleable, that we can translate into new interventions, whether psychological or pharmacological interventions. And of course, at the end of the day, our main aim is that all of this will be translated into policy. We do know from Israeli history that policymakers can and do listen when they see empirical data. When you can come to them and say, okay, so listen, we know who are the vulnerable individuals. We can prove it. We can show that to you over time. This is what we think they need, not only in terms of therapy, but also in terms of budgets, legislation. I can give you one very good example. If we compare the homecoming experience of POWs from the Yom Kippur War back in the 70s, before there was any trauma research in Israel, and we compare that homecoming experience to the homecoming experience that the hostages of this war have been receiving, there are huge differences for the better, for the better. One of the reasons for that is very, very good long-term research that was done in Israel to actually show what these POWs actually needed and what they cope with. So these are the main aims of what we're trying to do. We are aiming for it to be a big center, multidisciplinary center, that will over time branch out to do clinical studies, and more basic science studies and really give us the answers we need to tackle all the challenges that we as a society face right now.
Mm. That was my next question about the interdisciplinary nature of all of this. It's not just psychologists. It's not just,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's sociologists. You mentioned biology,
Yeah.
um, the brain science. What is it? Are there permanent changes to the brain? Are
Yeah.
these chemical? Are they things that are able to be dealt with with medications or with therapy or and what types of therapy? Is it one-on-one? Is it group? Is it experiential? And I know that Rivka, when she talked about the person who went to the archaeological dig, that was like an experiential group therapeutic interaction that made a difference in them, made them feel community, made them feel that they're not alone. And it's remarkable that Bar-Ilan is at the nexus of this, that all these years of encouraging the humanities side of Bar-Ilan, at the same time integrating it with science and at, keeping the Jewish, let's say, core ideals that we have about humanity and decency and community, the kahila. This is the time for it to really come together and make a huge difference. Let-
Ellen, if I can jump in and add, because I think Danny and Noah and I are psychologists, so we usually tend to think of trauma in terms of, the psychological work. But I think the really unique combination, as Danny spoke, of researchers will enable us to do much, much broader work. Because if you think of this trauma as a collective trauma, so we want philosophers to think about this war, and we want to think about the collective memory that is going to be at the end of this war. And we want to know about the literature that is being written now about this war. So this is going to be a huge center, not only studying the psychological aspects, but the much broader impact it has on the society. And this is why it's so brilliant. There is no such a center in the world.
Yeah.
There may even be music. Songs will be
Yes,
written, and that's a
of
Yeah.
course.
reflection.
I will also add, Alan, if I may, one more facet. We are, of course, also a training university. We have students that we need to serve. One of the things that this center is aimed to also add is not only research per se, but also what we call trauma literacy. We desperately need the next generation of trauma scholars and therapists to be very well trained. I think you all know that the needs in Israel right now are huge, and unfortunately, they will be huge for years to come. This is not a one-year thing. Rivka, Noah, Yael, and I cannot solve the problems alone, and neither can all the principal investigators that we have in our center. We need great PhD students. We need great interns for the future. We need people who will do their training in trauma research and therapy inside Bar-Ilan. These are the people that we will eventually send out to the community. They will be the next people who will take care of this huge public health issue. And certainly we will invest a lot in training and not only in research. And it goes together, of course, at the same time.
So I guess that when we look at all of this, it's it's not just the current episode of missiles. It's not just the day after October 7th. It's been a couple of years. It's prolonged, it's repeated, it's cumulative, and it's shared among huge groups. But in reality, Israelis are expecting, they're experiencing this prolonged exposure to stress, to war, reserve service, displacement, uncertainty. But from a research perspective, you are learning a lot, and it's almost overwhelming. I'm sure all the different avenues you could go and pursue uh, to investigate this sustained national trauma. Um, but you're, of course, not just in the ivory tower, you're in the lighthouse. Is the government and are other institutions going to create support systems that will endure and be present and part of Israeli society because of the fact that, as you mentioned, this isn't just going away tomorrow. Um, it's going to probably have to permeate through almost every facet, through the educational system, not just the higher educational system that you're in, but even for little kids who are, how do they cope with the fact that they've been woken up a zillion times a night and gone into shelters, and who knows what the ramifications are? It's just massive. Um, are you partnering with the government? Are you partnering with people? Because you only have so much money to work with, even though we're going to ask people later to give money to help you do this work. There's still, you need to be embraced. I know that, if I'm not mistaken, when hostages were brought back by helicopter from wherever they were kept captive, some of the first people that they saw were psychologists. And some of those psychologists were either Bar-Ilan trained people or people who were or are still on the staff or on the staff of Bar-Ilan. That's kind of like a fact check and proof that we're at the tip of what is the best, what's going on. It's also a validation of the fact that the government has stepped in and done things, but more needs to be done. Do you think that the government knows that things need to be done and will partner with Bar-Ilan to bring these solutions to the people over the future?
Who is the question
I guess it's
for?
for any of you. I mean, Danny was the last person being spoken to, but
Yeah.
whoever thinks they are best equipped to answer it, give us your
Well,
answer.
I can start, and please, Danny and Noah, add to what I have to say. I will just say first, we love collaborations. We think collaborations is the mother of everything which is good, and we collaborate with whoever is willing to collaborate. This is why we already have some collaborations with the Ministry of Health that supports our clinical work in the psychology department, in the social work department. We have collaboration with Natal, which is the Israel Trauma Organization, who helps us to give the right coaching and academic shield to our reservists. We cooperate with many organizations, and if I may, I will add I will speak from my other hat, which is the international affairs. We collaborate with other universities. Danny didn't mention it, but we have on our advisory board, we have the best international experts on trauma, and they train us, and they are consultants, and we work with other universities. They want our knowledge, but we learn from their knowledge. So whoever is willing to collaborate, we are very happy with it.
Excellent.
I wanna,
Excellent.
I wanna, I wanna present maybe a term here that is very relevant. Since October 7th, I think many of us understood that we are dealing with something on a larger scale, and the concept of trauma-informed care became to be very prevalent in Israel. It's a very interesting notion that actually says that when you have a country that is undergoing chronic trauma, you can no longer treat a specific center or like you don't have this, a focal point of the stress that you can treat. You have to make the entire system. It sounds very, very ambitious. You have to make the entire Israeli system trauma informed, meaning, and I will give my personal example, since the war, I've been giving numerous lectures and trainings to audiences that I have never met before. It's very interesting. Teachers, school principals, security organizations, hospitals, everyone understands these days that if you're a head of a community, a rabbi, a teacher, a principal, a lawyer, it doesn't really matter. You have to know something about trauma because many of your clients or people under your responsibility may suffer from something. So you want to know something about trauma. You don't have to be an expert, but the system has to go through an adaptation. There is no, and again, for that, you need a lot of people. You need to be a very certified source of knowledge, which a university like Bar-Ilan is. That's why, as Rivka is saying, many of us are sent out to the field and coming back, sent out to the field and coming back, giving trainings and giving back knowledge. Just today, I had a phone call with a general hospital in Israel. I phoned them. I said, listen, we're doing something, a project. I need you maybe you can use us. They said, we can, let's do it. So it's hospitals and clinics and the Ministry of Health and the IDF and other organizations. It's on a massive scale. It's on a national scale. It's no longer one community or one population, and we cannot do it alone. I can't, as a clinical psychologist, Rivka can't, Noah can't. We have to do it as a group, and we need more people. Yeah.
Well, that's at least there's this awareness. And with awareness and with the absolute, and there's a need. So with those two things, I think it will happen. I now have we've come to the point in the seminar or the webinar where we'd like to turn to a few questions from the audience that have come in through the Q&A. And they're thoughtful questions, and I'll try to address as many as time allows. Let's take a look here. And some of these have been addressed already, so forgive me if they're redundant, and we'll move on, but I don't want anybody to think that their question wasn't a good question, because they're all good questions. How did BIU help divergent groups in society overcome trauma during 2 years of inexplicable pain, of terrorism and war? I think we may have addressed it somewhat, but if anybody wants to chime in on that one briefly. Divergent groups in society overcome trauma.
Okay, I'd love to respond to that. Israel is a very unique country. It's very diverse. Also within the Jewish community, there are seculars, there are ultra-Orthodox, and everyone who is between. And it's very interesting. On usual days, we fight all the time between us, and we have like all kinds of ideas about how we should run this country. But when crisis kind of hit us, we join. When we join forces and we assist each other wherever we come, and we fight, shoulder to shoulder, literally. And this is really unique and warming in respect to this country. But specifically for the university, we pay much attention to different groups that might be more vulnerable. As Rivka said before, those who are already post-traumatized, family members, parents of little kids, but and also people who are not Jewish, but the Druze, the Arabs, the Bedouins, that they feel ostracized in a way because they are not, the Arabs who are not Bedouins do not serve, and there is lack of trust going on. So in times of war, so we try to maintain this tension in a very sensitive way and warm. And there were no, brutal or any kind of difficulties that were shown on campus. Now, no abrupt fights between groups or something like that, luckily. And we try to be very, very calm with all our messages. We now are about to translate everything that we have on the Resiliency Center to Arabic. It is now provided in Hebrew and English, but we will take the step further and translate everything to Arabic as well, even though we have only 2,000 Arab-speaking students out of 22,000. But it's important as a message that we care for all, and we understand that everybody suffers respectively from their point of view, and we would like to discuss these tensions and to bring people together. And for me, as a secular person, Bar-Ilan University is so unique and special because it's really diverse, and it really provides the image of Israel. It's not only secular people, it's not only, one type of people. Really, we have everyone here. And this provides us with a unique perspective on the Israeli community, and we see that we can have peace within us. It's like a lab for the Israeli tension, and we can make it happen. And maybe Bar-Ilan University can, say something for the rest of Israel about living together, despite the differences, without differences. you know, not regarding even the war. So hopefully this is also one of our missions and hopefully our impact to this country.
Well, that was I didn't understand the importance of that question that was asked, but you gave such a great answer that now I have a better understanding of even why that person was asking that question. But thank you. And the sensitivity to the Arab population is very important. Um, they are citizens of
Yeah,
Israel. And
maybe I can add to that from another perspective. I think what makes us really efficient is maybe are two things. One is that all of us, all three of us, but actually all of us, are not only researchers, we are also clinicians. So we really understand the field from the inside. We do not only study trauma, we are all trauma researchers here, and as well as the other experts. But all of us, we are also clinicians. So we know firsthand what it feels to be with a trauma or with anxiety or with depression. And that is not the situation in other universities. Researchers are usually researchers, even in psychology departments. This is one. The second thing is that we are very, very attentive to the needs that we hear. So, for example, one of the things that we just did last week, we had a call for the campus for the different populations to come up with their needs and ideas of what would they like to get the support of the Resilience Center for. Like, would they like to have a specific group for them for fostering resilience within the Bedouin group? We have money for that, and we invite people to teach us what they need the money for, and we then advance the needs with our experts. So I think this is really what we have knowledge, but we are very flexible and agile in order to really accommodate this knowledge to the real needs that come from the field.
well, those are very, very important aspects to the way you conduct your work, to not just be theoreticians, but to be practitioners and to then reintegrate that into the areas that you choose to do research in, and it improves the outcome. It's a circle that is always self-improving. So
Right.
we have a whole bunch of questions. I think that many of them have been addressed in one way or another. There was a question here about mental health impact and even biological impact of repeatedly hearing sirens and needing to run to shelters. I think we've sort of addressed that. If anybody wanted to add more to it, let me get a couple more questions out there because we will unbelievably run out of time because we only have 11 minutes left. Besides the current war and the 2 years of war after October 7th, can you describe how another conflict in Israel's history had a major impact on how the university deals with trauma? I think somebody talked about people coming back from the Yom Kippur War, and I'm sure there are other examples. And then this was another interesting one. How has the experience of war changed the way professors approach the content they're teaching in the classroom?
Mm.
That 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 could be interesting. I don't know if anybody wants to interrupt me and start answering. And how have digital tools played a role in expanding mental
Oh,
health services during this period? Maybe that's an
well,
interesting one.
I have,
Jump in.
okay, that's okay. I'll start with with this because this is a very important thing that we do. As Danny mentioned, the needs are huge, and we are not enough, practitioners and clinicians to address all the needs. This is why we develop in the Resilience Center and some of our researchers new technologies. Like we use VR, for example, in order to train people to work with PTSD, patients and clients. And we also develop AI tools in order to be able to at least assist in some way, even before people get to therapy, even in the triage phase, excuse me. So we are thinking about innovative ways, most of them are technological, to be able to really disseminate the interventions that we have to more populations. This is about the innovation.
Interesting.
I can talk,
Interesting.
Alan, maybe
Yes,
about.
please.
I think the first question was about the content of what we're teaching and how does that actually relate to what is going on. And I think specifically in this Zoom, maybe I can share an anecdote that will give people in the Zoom some kind of feeling of what we're dealing with. So, this week I had two lab meetings. So it means my research team that we meet in various contexts to talk about the studies we're running. And if the audience here could actually take a look at the Zoom meeting that we did, it's a very interesting site. So I have 20 something students in my lab. So specifically this week, because of the war with Iran, you have some students who are right now out of their home, staying with their parents because they have shelters. So they're doing the Zoom meeting from there. You have a few in uniform because they were just called to reserve service. So they're sitting, talking about science and about what they have to do, the duties they have in the lab while they are in a military base somewhere with their phones. You have others who are at home, maybe in Tel Aviv, maybe in Ramat Gan, and have to run to the shelter. We just had that today. Some of them had to leave the Zoom, go to the shelter, come back. And I think what is kind of moving for me is that and I don't know, maybe it's a form of resilience. You can say that we keep doing our work and talking about trauma science while we're actually experiencing at the same time. It's kind of unbelievable in a way. And we're not trying to, shut it off, like to say it's not here, but actually to kind of use it to talk among ourselves about the subject matter. We are studying the same experiences that we are going through, even if we are not this kind of, extreme population, but we all know what we're talking about, and our students also know. I think it's not only is it not a disadvantage, it's a huge advantage because we know what we're talking about. The students know they are emotionally connected to it. They're able to understand it. They're able to be very sensitive to the participants who are coming into the lab to do the studies, right? So it's all kind of I'm not trying to romanticize it. I'm just saying this is what it is. This is what we're dealing with. And to not stop not stop what we're doing, but actually use it and adapt as we go along. And I'm sure Rivka and Noah know exactly these scenarios from their labs. It's not even a question. I mean, I know they do. We are all dealing exactly with this on a daily basis.
I think as Jews, we take a klala and turn it into a bracha. We take adversity and we turn it into success. And that's the story of Israel in many ways. And, so using the seichel, the intelligence, the chachma that we've been given, and the innovation and the creativity, we do things that go beyond Israel. These research results and practical results will benefit beyond the state of Israel. They'll benefit the world of psychology and trauma research and the types of remedial and therapeutic things that can be done to help people throughout the world. It will echo just like the startup nations innovations with basic science tech and technology that we see. This softer sort of humanistic element will surely also go further and beyond just the gvul of Israel today. And you should be confident that the work you're doing is, of course, benefiting the people of Israel, but it will be benefiting mankind because this is important. The trauma is not going away. It comes in many different shapes and flavors and forms, whether it's through personal relationships or, wars are one way, but there are many others. So you're getting deeper into something very important. And with that, I want to thank you, our distinguished panelists, and thank you, the people watching, for joining us today. Your presence here, whether you logged in from Israel, North America, Europe, or elsewhere, demonstrates the strength of the Bar-Ilan community and the deep commitment so many of you share to the university and to the people of Israel. What we heard today is that Bar-Ilan's response to this crisis did not begin on October 7th. The university had invested years in building the academic expertise, clinical programs, and partnerships needed to address trauma, resilience, and mental health in Israeli society. When the crisis came, Bar-Ilan was ready to act. Today, The university is mobilizing on multiple fronts to ensure that students receive the support they need during this difficult time. This includes supporting students called to reserve duty so they can return to their studies, expanding mental health services and providing a 24/7 emergency, well, maybe 24/6 emergency hotline support, offering support to international students who are far away from home, developing resilience programs that help students cope during the crisis and reintegrate into campus life after military service, advancing research that will help Israel understand and respond to the long-term psychological effects of trauma. This work is essential, not only for the well-being of Bar-Ilan's students, but for the strength and resilience of Israeli society as a whole. What today's conversation really makes clear is that this work is not just theoretical. It's happening right now, supporting students who are trying to continue their education while their country is under enormous strain. And it is work that requires resources from people who care deeply about the future of Israel and its students. And I'm assuming everybody on the call fits into that category. On behalf of myself, my wife, Lori, as well as Stephen Rosenberg, who is the chair of American Friends of Bar-Ilan, and his wife, Ruthie, I'm announcing a matching challenge for this emergency campaign. We will match the Zeckelmans and the Rosenbergs up to $75,000 for all gifts raised during this campaign. Hopefully we'll get even more than that. But so every gift made through this campaign will immediately have at least twice the impact. If today's conversation moved you, and if you believe in the role Bar-Ilan is playing at this critical moment, we invite you to consider making an emergency gift alongside us. Please partner with us. I would encourage everyone in the U.S. who is considering making a gift to click on the donation link that has been posted in the Zoom chat right now. That way, the donation page will already be open in a browser window on your desktop when this call ends. You can then complete your gift immediately or finish it after the program. But clicking now ensures that you won't lose the link when the Zoom call ends. Alternatively, the link is, and just you can navigate to it directly, afbiu.org/donation/rise. If you live elsewhere, please visit the website for your local Friends of Bar-Ilan University for information on how to give. Thank you again for standing with Bar-Ilan University. Together, we will prevail. Yachad Nenatzeach. And thank you again for this, for your attendance here. And this basically concludes our webinar. And we're right on time, which is unusual. And no sirens. Look at that. We had the blessing of that. And there should be no more sirens. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Ken Yeratzon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, bye-bye.